I never thought I'd be writing this, but my sister Miranda, 30F, just called me, 30F, to tell me she's pregnant, and I don't know how to handle this situation. Let me start from the beginning to explain why this news has me so worried. Miranda and I grew up in a challenging situation. Our parents divorced when we were young. I was 8 and Miranda was 7. Our dad left us for his secretary and moved to another state, barely keeping in touch except for occasional birthday cards with $20 bills inside. Our mom worked 2 jobs, as a waitress during the day and cleaning offices at night, just to keep us fed and housed. During those years, Miranda and I became incredibly close. We basically raised each other while mom was working. Our older sister Kylie, 35F, was already in high school and focused on her studies, hoping to get scholarships for college. Miranda was always the optimistic one among us. While Kylie and I grew cautious and somewhat cynical after our dad left, Miranda maintained this belief that everything would work out if you just believed in people. She worked hard through nursing school, took extra shifts, and saved every penny she could. By last year, she had an impressive retirement account, a great job at the city hospital, and was planning to buy her own house. Then she met Jacob, 32M, at our cousin's wedding. He seemed perfect at first. He had a steady union job in construction, owned his car, and came from what seemed like a good family. Jacob charmed everyone at the wedding. He danced with our mom, helped the elderly relatives to their seats, and even entertained the kids with magic tricks. I remember thinking how refreshing it was to see Miranda with someone who appeared so put together, especially after her last boyfriend who couldn't hold down a job. For the first few months, everything was great. Jacob would show up at our family dinners with flowers for our mom. He fixed her leaky faucet and repainted her kitchen for free. He talked about wanting to start his own construction company someday and seemed ambitious. Miranda was head over heels in love. When they decided to move in together after 6 months of dating, we all supported it. The changes started slowly. First, Jacob began calling in sick to work more often. He complained about back pain, then knee problems, then mysterious headaches. Miranda, being a nurse, was naturally concerned and took him to different doctors. But they never found anything seriously wrong. Still, Jacob insisted he was in too much pain to work. His union job protected him from getting fired, but they stopped paying him after his sick leave ran out. At our family Christmas gathering, Miranda confided in me that Jacob hadn't worked in over a month. She was picking up extra night shifts at the hospital to cover their rent and bills. Jacob promised he'd get better and go back to work, but instead, he spent his days playing video games and browsing YouTube. He stopped coming to family events, claiming he didn't feel well enough. When he did show up, he'd just lie on the couch and complain about his various aches and pains. Things got worse when Miranda discovered Jacob's financial secrets. She was cleaning their apartment one day and found a stack of unopened letters from the IRS. It turned out Jacob owed significant back taxes in both Ohio and Pennsylvania. He had worked in both states but never filed his returns. Even more concerning, he had been receiving his father's pension payments without reporting them as income. When Miranda confronted him about this, Jacob broke down crying, saying he was ashamed and promising to fix everything if she just gave him time. Our sister Kylie, who works as a financial advisor, tried to warn Miranda. She noticed how Jacob always had excuses for why he couldn't provide his financial documents when they applied for their apartment lease. Kylie offered to help Jacob set up a payment plan for his taxes, but he always found reasons to postpone their meetings. She told Miranda that his behavior showed classic signs of financial manipulation, but Miranda defended him, saying Kylie was just being overprotective. Last month, Jacob spent $3,000 on new gaming equipment using their shared credit card. When Miranda asked him to return it, he claimed he needed it for his mental health and that gaming was his therapy. Miranda had to borrow money from our mom just to pay their utility bills. She finally gave him an ultimatum, 60 days to get a job and start contributing, or he would need to move out. Yesterday, Kylie called me with the news that Miranda is pregnant. Apparently, Jacob is ecstatic about it. He's suddenly talking about being a father and how this baby will give him the motivation he needs to turn his life around. According to Kylie, he's making all sorts of promises about finding a job and fixing his financial problems. Miranda seems to believe him completely. I avoided Miranda's call last night, using my son's bedtime as an excuse. But I know she'll try again, and I have no idea what to say to her. How do I tell my sister that she's making a huge mistake? That Jacob isn't going to magically become responsible just because there's a baby? That she'll end up being a single mother while also supporting a grown man? Our mom is devastated. She knows firsthand how hard it is to raise children alone while struggling financially. She's afraid Miranda will end up in the same situation she was in after our dad left. Kylie is furious and wants to stage an intervention before Miranda's life is completely ruined. But I'm torn between being supportive and telling her the harsh truth about her situation. I feel like I'm watching a car crash in slow motion, and I can't do anything to stop it. Miranda had everything going for her, a great career, substantial savings, and plans for her future. Now all her money is going toward Jacob's debts and basic living expenses. I'm terrified this baby will trap her with him forever, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. Update 1: I wanted to update everyone on what happened since my last post. After avoiding Miranda's calls for several days, I finally agreed to meet her for coffee at our usual spot. I arrived early, feeling anxious about the conversation ahead. Miranda showed up beaming with excitement, carrying a small envelope that I later learned contained her sonogram pictures. Before I could even bring up my concerns, Miranda launched into telling me about all her plans. She showed me the sonogram, pointing out what she said was the baby's tiny hand. Then she started talking about how everything was going to change now. According to her, Jacob had already started looking for jobs and had 3 promising interviews lined up. She told me they were planning a small wedding before the baby arrived, nothing fancy, just family and close friends. I tried to stay supportive while gently voicing my concerns about Jacob's unemployment and debt situation. That's when Miranda revealed something that made my blood run cold. She had completely emptied her retirement account to pay off Jacob's tax debt. She said she did it because she didn't want their baby to have a father with financial problems, and Jacob had promised to pay her back once he started working again. The retirement account had over $50,000 in it, money she'd been carefully saving since she started her nursing career. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my coffee cup. I called Kylie as soon as I left the cafe. When I told her about the retirement account, she completely lost it. Kylie works in finance and immediately calculated that Miranda would lose about 40% of that money just in penalties and taxes for early withdrawal. Plus, she'd be missing out on years of compound interest. Kylie immediately called our mom, who decided to confront Jacob directly. Mom drove to their apartment that afternoon, completely furious. Jacob was home, as usual, playing video games in his pajamas at 2 p.m. According to Mom, when she started questioning him about the retirement money, Jacob got defensive and told her to stay out of their business. He claimed he never asked Miranda to pay his debts and that she did it on her own because she loved him. But the real shock came when Mom started asking about his father's pension. Jacob got flustered and started giving conflicting stories about when his father died and what state it happened in. Mom's suspicions were raised, so she did some digging. It turned out Jacob's father wasn't dead at all. He was very much alive and living in Florida with Jacob's stepmother. Jacob had somehow been forging documents to collect pension payments that weren't his. When Mom threatened to report him for fraud, Jacob completely changed tactics. He called Miranda at work and told her that our family was trying to destroy their happiness because we were jealous of their relationship. He convinced her that we couldn't stand to see her happy with someone who wasn't as successful as we wanted. Within days, Miranda had blocked all of us on social media and changed her phone number. The only updates we got were through her friend Lisa, who still worked with her at the hospital. Lisa told us Miranda had quit her full-time nursing position because Jacob convinced her the stress wasn't good for the baby. She took a part-time position at a small clinic instead, making less than half her previous salary. Kylie tried reaching out to Jacob's family, hoping they might be able to talk some sense into him. That plan backfired spectacularly. His mother turned out to be just like him. She defended Jacob completely, saying he had always been a sensitive soul who needed extra support. She suggested our family was too materialistic and that we were trying to impose our values on Jacob and Miranda. She even said Miranda was finally with someone who appreciated her for more than her paycheck, completely ignoring the fact that Jacob was living off Miranda's money. According to Lisa, things have gotten even worse at their apartment. Miranda has been selling her designer bags and jewelry, items she had carefully collected over years of hard work, just to cover their rent because Jacob still hasn't found a job. He's now claiming he's going to start a YouTube gaming channel that will make them millionaires, but so far he's just spending Miranda's money on expensive gaming equipment and editing software. The hardest part is knowing my sister is completely alone now. She's 12 weeks pregnant, working reduced hours, supporting a grown man, and has cut off everyone who truly cares about her. Kylie wants to report Jacob's pension fraud to the authorities, but Mom is afraid it would only stress Miranda out and potentially harm the baby. Plus, we're all worried it would just push Miranda further away and convince her that we're trying to ruin her life. I feel completely helpless. Every time we try to help or point out Jacob's manipulation, he manages to twist it around and make us look like the bad guys. Miranda believes everything he says now, and with a baby on the way, I'm terrified she'll be trapped with him forever. Our mom cries every night, worried that Miranda will end up struggling just like she did after our dad left. But at least our dad left. Jacob seems determined to stay and bleed Miranda dry. Update 2. I need to update everyone on the shocking events of the past few months. Everything came crashing down last week when Lisa called me crying. She had gone to drop off some prenatal vitamins at Miranda's apartment and found my sister sobbing on the bathroom floor. After calming her down, Miranda revealed she had discovered Jacob was having an affair with Rachel, another nurse from the clinic where she now worked part-time. The way Miranda discovered the affair made it even more painful. Jacob had been using Miranda's old laptop for his supposed YouTube gaming channel. That day, when Miranda went to use the computer to check her work schedule, she found Jacob had left his Facebook messages open. There were hundreds of messages between him and Rachel going back months, even before Miranda got pregnant. The messages revealed something devastating. Jacob and Rachel had been planning to move in together once Rachel received her upcoming promotion and could afford a better apartment. In these messages, Jacob painted himself as a victim, telling Rachel that Miranda was mentally unstable and obsessed with him. He even suggested the baby might not be his, claiming Miranda had trapped him with the pregnancy to keep him from leaving. When Lisa arrived, Miranda finally broke down and shared everything that had been happening. The real reason Jacob wanted her to quit her full-time nursing job wasn't about pregnancy stress, it was because her co-workers at the hospital had started warning her about seeing him around town with another woman. He convinced her to take the clinic job where Rachel worked so he could keep an eye on her while pretending to be a concerned partner. The financial situation was even worse than we thought. Jacob had been steadily stealing from Miranda's checking account. He started with small amounts, $20 here, $50 there, but grew bolder as Miranda became more distracted by the pregnancy. He'd tell her he needed money for job interview clothes or transportation to interviews, but the messages showed he was spending it on dates with Rachel. When Miranda confronted Jacob about Rachel, his reaction was chilling. He didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he turned it around and blamed Miranda, saying her constant nagging about finding a job had pushed him away. He claimed Rachel understood him better and didn't try to change him. That night, he packed a bag and left, saying he needed space to think. Miranda later learned from a mutual friend that he had moved in with Rachel, who lived just 3 blocks from their apartment. Kylie drove over as soon as she heard what happened. While helping Miranda sort through papers, she found a drawer full of overdue bills in Jacob's desk. He hadn't paid any utilities in months, despite Miranda giving him money for them. Even worse, Kylie discovered several payday loan documents in Miranda's name that she had never signed. Jacob had been forging her signature to borrow thousands of dollars at outrageous interest rates. The final blow came when Miranda checked their joint account and found regular transfers to Rachel's Venmo, money that was supposed to be for the baby's expenses. Miranda had been putting aside money each month for baby furniture and supplies, but Jacob had been sending it to Rachel with messages like "for our future." I moved in with Miranda temporarily to help her deal with this mess. Kylie is working with her lawyer friend to document all the fraud and forgery. Our mom has been amazing through all this, offering her house to Miranda until she can get back on her feet. Even Jacob's father reached out after we contacted him about the pension fraud. He was horrified to learn Jacob had been using his information to steal money. Miranda is 5 months pregnant now and finally seeing Jacob for who he really is. The hardest part for her isn't even losing him, it's realizing that every promise, every emotional moment, every plan for their future was just another manipulation. She keeps asking herself how she missed so many red flags, but we're all reminding her that Jacob was an expert at deception. Update 3. After everything that happened, I wanted to post one final update. A lot has changed since my last post, and I can finally say things are looking better. Miranda moved back in with our mom and managed to get her old nursing position back at the hospital. They were actually short-staffed and welcomed her return with better shifts and even a slight pay increase. She's now 7 months pregnant and doing much better without Jacob's constant drain on her life. The legal situation finally came to a head. Kylie's lawyer friend helped Miranda build a solid case against Jacob for the forged payday loans and stolen money. They documented everything: the forged signatures, the unauthorized transfers, the stolen pension money. When Jacob's father discovered the extent of the pension fraud, he also decided to press charges. Jacob had apparently stolen over $40,000 using his father's information. Faced with potential jail time, Jacob suddenly became very cooperative. His lawyer worked out a deal: he would sign away all parental rights to the baby and repay the payday loans in exchange for Miranda not pursuing criminal charges for the forgeries. The pension fraud case with his father was settled separately, with Jacob agreeing to repayment terms. We got an unexpected ally when Rachel reached out to Miranda. After Jacob moved in with her, she discovered he was already seeing someone else, a waitress from the bar where he spent Miranda's money. Rachel found out he had tried to convince this new woman to take out loans for his latest business idea, a food truck venture this time. Rachel provided all their message history and details about Jacob's schemes, which helped strengthen the legal case against him. The situation got even more eye-opening when Jacob's ex-girlfriend from Michigan found Miranda through a Facebook group about financial abuse. She shared an almost identical story. Jacob had used the same tactics with her, faking illnesses to avoid work, stealing money, and threatening self-harm when she tried to leave him. She never pressed charges because he threatened to hurt himself if she did. Miranda had her baby shower recently, hosted at our mom's house. It was smaller than the wedding shower she never got to have, but it was filled with people who genuinely care about her. She's having a girl and decided to name her after our grandmother Margaret, who was always the strongest woman we knew. The nursery is set up in Mom's house, painted in soft yellows and greens, and for the first time in months, Miranda seems truly happy. Jacob still tries to worm his way back in occasionally. He calls from different numbers when he needs money or when things don't work out with whatever woman he's currently manipulating. But Miranda has blocked every number and all his social media accounts. She's focused entirely on her baby now and rebuilding her financial security. Kylie helped her set up a new retirement account, and she's slowly working on paying back the payday loans Jacob took out in her name. Looking back, we all wish we'd pushed harder when we first saw the red flags with Jacob. But Miranda needed to see the truth for herself, and now she's stronger for it. She says she learned an expensive but invaluable lesson about trusting her instincts. The baby is due in just 2 months, and our whole family is excited to meet her, minus one deadbeat who won't be missed. Sometimes the best ending isn't a happy one with everyone forgiving each other, it's one where you finally find peace by letting go of toxic people who never deserved you in the first place.